Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Gordon. I am the Programming Manager for Readings. It is a pleasure to be here with you today, an absolute treat. Now, what I would like to do before we get going is just spend a few minutes where we reflect on how gorgeous it is that we live in this beautiful, beautiful country. And I want to pay my respects to the elders. At the moment, I am speaking from the Kulin Nation, and I want to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I want to say, you know what? This is land that is not ours. This is land that's not been ceded. We are incredibly lucky and privileged to live in such a beautiful country, a country that has been given to us through the goodwill of so many people. So I would now like to introduce you to the one and only Elizabeth Hewson, who has written this beautiful, beautiful book. Here it is. Can we all see that? It's called Saturday Night Pasta. She has reached some sort of cult fame, if you like, because she has had this ability to connect with you. She's connected with you through food, through sharing her own personal stories, and through music. Elizabeth Hewson, good afternoon to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So before we get going on the cooking class, I want to just ask a few questions about you, Elizabeth. You're one of these women that have decided very early on to surround yourself with food, with passion, with people's stories. How did it all come about?
I have always loved food. I mean, I've always loved eating, which probably led me to food. And it's just been something, even when I was younger, that I connected with. And very early on, I found that and started cooking. And then from cooking and from food, connecting with people. And I landed in a job where I got to work with some incredible restaurants and chefs and food brands. And that only spurred me on to want to keep going and learn more. Yeah.
Can we all just have a little moment where we reflected on the fact that when you were 21, you published your first book? Who does that?
I think I've always been an ambitious person, and I work my day jobs in marketing and comms, and as part of you always look for the gap or the opportunity. And I remember I was living out of home, doing university up in Bathurst, and I saw that there wasn't really any cookbooks for home leavers, and so I thought I'll get creative and document my own journey and then share that with others. And coming from someone of my age, speaking to the exact same age demographic rather than, someone older and doing it.
One of the things that I really loved about your Saturday Night Pasta is just how personal it is. I can actually feel your language and who you are coming through. There's so many stories in there. So tell me a little bit about how Saturday night, the great cook-offs of Saturday night started.
So I have always suffered from anxiety, even when I was younger. I mean, if I could stress about something, I would, anything. And it sort of became, a couple of years ago, really unmanageable. And I was looking for an outlet and something else to do. And I love what I do and I love my job, but because of that, I make it very personal, and the lines are really blurred between work and personal. So I was taking a lot of that on, and for a long time there, my sense of self, it was measured by my performance and my productivity, and probably most damaging, how others perceived me. So I, had got to this point where anxiety was really taking over, and it was this constant, in the book I describe it as a bee that buzzed. And someone actually said to me recently, we're in the age of anxiety now, and there's a lot of, a lot of people feel the same way, and it's a rather, it's not a dramatic tale. It's a rather ordinary, an ordinary tale to connect with. So I sort of thought I needed to find something else and channel, something to help relax me. And I tried yoga, and that wasn't really for me. It was too much in my head, and I think I I was looking around and, comparing myself to others in the room, and I was hopeless and I wasn't wearing the right gear. And then one night, and it was a really unremarkable day. I was really deep in this trough of pain, and
so when you talk about that trough of pain, Lizzie, sorry to interrupt, you talk about it being like a grey day or something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and it'd been for an extended period of time. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm high functioning still, but it just that constant worry and dread and overthinking. And I think there's probably a lot of people that are nodding and understanding what I'm saying. And my husband was traveling a lot for work. So he was away kind of two weeks of a month. So I had a lot of time by myself, and I've always found comfort in food. I've always cooked for myself. And so one day I decided to make pasta. I had made it before, but I hadn't made it for a long time. I just started kneading dough. And
how long ago was this? When was this particular?
I think it's about 2016.
Yeah.
And I started kneading dough. I poured myself a glass of wine.
I think essential.
Essential. And put on a playlist of my favorites, and just I was so in the moment. And for that evening, I didn't think about anything else, and it was the first time where I really switched off. I was so absorbed by the task at hand. I made a super basic tomato sauce that didn't require anything from me. There was no pressure, and in my job I try and chase perfection. I'm a perfectionist, and but the worst thing that could have happened to me that night was that I would have toast for dinner, and that was really comforting in itself. So once the pressure's removed, and of course nothing, things tend to not go wrong when you don't have that applied pressure because you're at ease. And I cooked for myself, and it was just one of those moments where I was so calm and relaxed. I hadn't picked up my phone. I work with restaurants, so that's all, that happens all weekend long at night. And I was just absorbed in this moment. And so I then started making it every Saturday night. Pasta making is not like yoga where you could do it every day. I mean, you could, but realistically, you're not going to. And I just started to make a ritual out of it.
So I'm interested in this whole concept of ritual, because I know that you set it all up, don't you, your Saturday night? You make sure that the bench is cleared, you pour yourself a glass of wine, you put on your tunes. And for yourself, that setting up of the ritual is the way that you can actually get control back in your life. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And actually someone said to me recently, anxious people, they tend to think in the future or in the past and never in the present. So being in the present is actually when you're most relaxed and most creative. And as a creative person, it's incredibly inspiring. And so it was kind of just this energy that I wanted to keep recreating, and this feeling. Setting myself up with my things in my own space felt really safe. And another thing that anxious people do, and I'm hoping there's someone on the call today and agree with me, is you like a routine and predictability. And it's the same reason why I watch, Friends over and over again. I know what's coming. Takes a lot to get onto a new show or TV or movie. I just having that space where, I was there and safe felt really good.
Can you tell me what it's been like during this terrible, terrible year that we've all had? If you're suffering from some anxiety and that importance of ritual, when you were in lockdown in Sydney, when the world sort of started to collapse upon you, what happened to you there?
To add complication to my lockdown, I had a baby 3 days before.
Yeah.
And being in a fast-paced job where I worked a lot, and at night I would be at restaurants, I found the adjustment hugely difficult, without lockdown or not. Regardless, it was a big thing. And then going into lockdown, we weren't allowed any visitors in the hospital. I couldn't have mum and dad. All our midwife appointments and classes got cancelled. There was no mothers groups. Friends couldn't even come and, parlay their wisdom. So it was a really, I don't know if it was lockdown or if it was just the adjustment of having a baby and that kind of, your world changes in an instant. That
it becomes quite small, doesn't it? In that way.
That I wasn't prepared for. But I found the first 3 months incredibly challenging. I was just questioning absolutely everything I was doing. I just had no, I'm sure like a lot of first mothers, no idea what I was doing. And it's, there's a loneliness you feel as a first-time mother at those kind of wee hours in the morning that you just never felt before. So what, I'm lucky that I have an incredibly supportive husband who was very hands-on, and that really helped me get through it. But very early on, I really lent into my Saturday night pasta ritual. And I would, I think it was about a week, 10 days after I had Louis, I started making pasta, and I shared it on Instagram, and a lot of people, said, "Oh, you're amazing making pasta so soon after, you're killing it." And really it was the complete opposite. But I don't, for me, it was the way to relax and unwind. And I think if people are also feeling that, creating and carving out some time to yourself is so important, and doing something you love. I think that's sort of how, that's definitely how I got through it.
Lizzie, I think that you are wise beyond your years, and I know that those first early months of motherhood are tough for anyone, and I think you've done so extraordinarily well to be able to create something 10 days afterwards that is not just about your baby. Congratulations, darling. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me about the recipe that you've got prepared for us today.
Okay, so today I wanted to cook something that was very easy, and it's something I cook a lot with lunch because the sauce is a no-cook sauce, and you're really relying on great ingredients done very simply. And it's always, I've lived in Italy, and when you talk to people about Italy, the first thing they say is, "Oh, that time I had crunchy country style bread with heaped tomatoes and olive oil and basil, or spaghetti, tossed through clams and garlic and chili." And it's all such simple food. Yet when we get home or we cook for friends with others, we tend to want to try and complicate it. So this recipe is as basic as it can get. And the idea is the tomato, you use the best tomatoes. And I do say summertime, and I realize we're in spring, but I always measure the quality of ingredients, not by, it's the 1st of December, so now I can cook with tomatoes, but by the ingredient itself. And I have an incredible fruit and veggie shop near me called Galuzzo's. And if anyone's in Sydney, you have to go. They've been there for ages. They're a family-run business, and they get the most incredible produce. And these tomatoes are so sweet.
Oh, and they're such a beautiful colour, Lizzie.
Yeah, they're incredible. And then this basil, which I just wish you could smell it all. It's and they give it to you with the little the
little root system, yeah.
And so it's incredible, and they only have it when it's warm enough. It's all local, grown around the Hawkesbury. So I decided that this sauce was perfect because essentially it heats through by the pasta. It's very quick to make. So, I mean, if you wanted to use fresh or dried, dried obviously makes it about a 5-minute exercise, tossing it all together.
So, first of all, though, if we were going from scratch, as we call it, isn't it? Starting from scratch.
Yes.
Take me through what you would do. First of all,
so
you would turn on the music. You would pour yourself a glass of wine.
Tick, done. Music turned down just so everyone can hear me.
There's a wonderful line in Elizabeth's book where she says, you must make sure that you're hydrated throughout the cooking process. Pour wine.
And I always turn my pot of water on.
Have you already salted your water in there?
No.
No.
I will, because that's really important to season water, because if you don't, that seasons the pasta. I don't add salt to my dough. Some people do, and I think I've chosen, in my book, there's 2 very simple dough recipes. They're user-friendly, they're basic, and for me, they always work. And I didn't want to complicate things by adding more yolks or, or any more ingredients than I needed to, because I really wanted it to be accessible.
Of course. So today's recipe is?
It is fresh tomato basil with goat's curd.
And the pasta?
We're making buzzati. I wanted to make that because I think it's a shape that people aren't familiar with, but it's very, very easy. And all you need is these kitchen wooden skewers, which I think most people have. And if not, that one was, $2.20 from the $2 store. But I also thought, while if we have enough time, I might show 2 other shapes that you could serve with this, that are also using, household equipment. But you really don't need to make fresh pasta if you don't want to. I mean, for me, the whole philosophy around Saturday night pasta and the ritual was kneading the dough, because I can't emphasize how great it feels, channeling a really shitty week into kneading of the dough. But it's equally as satisfying and delicious pouring a packet of dry pasta into the rapid boiling bubbles of, perfect.
I think everybody, what Elizabeth is saying here is feel no shame.
Yes.
If you don't feel like kneading, don't feel any shame. Packets are fine. But excellent ingredients is the key.
Yes, exactly. So we'll make the pasta together.
Great.
And one of the other thing that I do that obviously Italian nonnas don't do is I weigh my ingredients. And really the point of that is that you get consistent results. There's a lot of inconsistencies that can happen: weather, humidity, a draft coming through, a window open, your eggs have more water content, so the best thing I can do is to be consistent on weight. Now we're making a semolina dough, and that is the simplest of dough. It uses just flour and water. There's no eggs. Which is traditionally from the southern parts of Italy, where it was traditionally a poorer area. Eggs were more expensive and made that beautiful egg pasta dough up north, and I think that's the one that everyone's really familiar with. Whereas semolina is more down south, and it's also super easy to have on hand. Now, the flour I use is a semolina flour, and it's a harder wheat flour than the 00 that maybe people are more familiar with. And you can buy it from Harris Farm, online, Italian delis. I think you'll find it around a lot. So I just put my dough in a bowl and made a bit of a well. And then I'm going to I'm squeezed in my tiny kitchen so you can all see.
No, I love it. And Lizzie, tell me about this gorgeous T-shirt that you've got on too, just while you're up and about. Look at this.
Saturday night pasta T-shirt.
Turn around.
And it says, feel the need. Modern day therapy.
Perfect.
So basically the ratio is 100 grams of flour and a hydration of 45%. And what that means is 100 grams of flour to 45 grams of warm water. So what I'm going to do is weigh the water as well, just so it's exact and we get those consistent results. So I've got 300 grams of flour, so I'm going to have 135, and I've just poured way too much water then, 135 mil of water. I wasn't watching. Yep, perfect. And I'm just going to pour it into the well and then use my hands to bring it all together. And for me, this is really the therapy of it all. And so you just scoop it round, pull the flour in. You can do it directly on your board. But I tend
is there a type of board that everybody should be using?
Look, I'm not going to say you need to have special equipment to do this. You don't. But I prefer to make it on wooden board. But, you know, you can do it on any clean bench. But this is what I have, is a wooden pasta board. You can buy them online, and it's just because I obviously make pasta a lot that I like it, and it's my just for pasta. No one's allowed to use it for anything else.
And have you floured that board first, or you don't need to?
No, I don't need to. So, okay, so we've kind of brought it together, and it's very crumbly, as you will see. Can you see that? I might put that.
Oh, that's perfect. That's great.
And what we're going to do is just start to squeeze it together. And basically the moisture is just starting to absorb the pasta. And you think, how is this possibly going to make any dough? But you just bring it all together. Now, I've got a chair, so I'm just going to put that to the side for the moment. One of the things I talk about in the book is having form and position. I don't know if you've read that page.
I absolutely have, because it's one of my favourite pages. But also just prior to that, you've got how this, in fact, action, this with your legs sort of a certain amount apart and you're leaning forward, has given you incredible abs. Whoever could think? I mean, the idea of pasta and abs working together is just a revolution, Lizzie.
Yeah, well, is it as long a bow to say, you know, it's a mental exercise as well as a physical? But how that all came about, I don't have that strong abs. But when I was getting an ultrasound, the lady said to me, she was having the ultrasound wand on my stomach, and she said, oh, you must do, you know, a lot of core exercises and really work out. And sort of my husband was sitting next to me and kind of spat out his coffee as she said this, because my exercise is really, you know, it stretches from walking my giant dog around, my giant disabled dog, he's 55 kilos, around the street. So no, but then when we got home and I started making pasta that weekend, I realized that you brace your core, and I'll just so you can see quite a lot when you knead. And it was one of the first things that I got taught at pasta school. Because, you know, if you think about all the nonnas, that how much pasta they're kneading out, and they're rolling by hand, they need to have a good position and form, you know, so they can continue. So it was one of the first things, and it was hip width apart, or, you know, foot out, and your weight on the front foot, and bracing and putting your shoulders and dropping them down, because, you know, it is meant to be relaxing.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm actually just amazed at how quickly that dough's come together, because it certainly didn't look like it was going to at the start.
Yeah, exactly. It really comes together quite quickly, and this dough is quicker than an egg dough to bring together, and it changes texture really quickly. And one of the things, you don't need a dough scrape, but I always just feel a little bit more professional. And it's just nice to kind of move the flour around. You know, you can cut the dough and you'll see all the dough coming together, and then you can, you know, use that to pick up the dry bits. And now we're into the kneading stage. So I'll just move the stir off to the side.
When you were working with the amazing Mary Small from Plum Publishing, this book has been produced by Plum Publishing. Did you have to make all the dough for those beautiful pictures that are strewn throughout your book?
I did. And so when we shot the book, I was 33 weeks pregnant.
My goodness.
It was in the height of summer. And yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was a great team, and you know, are amazing to work with. And it was incredible. So it was quite relaxing in a sense, and I prepped as much as I could, but we shot everything in the stages on the how-to overhead, so it's exactly the same view as what you'll see, rather than doing it from a different angle, which I think is really confusing. I mean, that's confusing in any shape or form, not just in pasta making.
I think that's right. And it's one of the things that I really appreciate about your book. One of the elements that seems to shine through is that this, at its core, is your story, but it's a very practical ode to making pasta.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information in there. It's comprehensive, and I think the point is this is not perfect pasta, nor do I want it to be. You know, it's very much about the process, and I can't make perfect pasta. I mean, you see these incredible Instagram accounts that their pasta, I mean, they're almost artworks. That's not me, and, you know, nor is it the book, or nor do I want it to be like that. It's really about having a go and, creating something really delicious. I mean, it just happens that the end result is a bowl of pasta. So as we're kneading, you'll see it's really started to come together and become really soft. And you want to knead it for about 5 to 7 minutes. And the texture changes. I mean, you can't feel it, but if you're doing it with me or doing it later, you'll see how quickly it transforms and it becomes really springy. And it'll continue during the resting stage to release more moisture and absorb the pasta, and it becomes almost, I mean, smooth, like a baby's bottom is what I say in the book.
And are you working up a bit of a sweat there, Lizzie, or not? You are.
That the boiling water, you know, the pot's boiling behind me. But essentially, I don't think you can be bad at kneading. This is not like bread making where you're worried about overworking it or, you know, it rising. Really, this is just about bringing it together, you know, and the way I do it is just using my palm and pushing forward and then bringing it back and moving it in the same direction, using my other hand to kind of rotate it round. And that's it. But it's really squishing, pulling, a bit of pushing. So, it's really something that anyone can do. And then the best thing is you let it rest.
And how important is that?
So I mean, actually with this dough, if you don't overknead it, you don't need to rest it. So it can be a super quick pasta shape to make. And the other thing that I love about this dough is you don't need to roll it out like you would an egg dough. It's sort of about embracing irregularity and making all different shapes. So it comes together really well. And so you can roll something out in 5 minutes. I like to give it a rest because I like to take a rest. I mean, that's the point, not to kind of rush through this. So that's looking really good. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but it's super smooth. And normally I'd probably need it maybe for 1 or 2 more minutes, but for the sake of today, you can see how quickly it's come together and how smooth it is. And all I'll do is wrap it up in some Glad wrap, which is around somewhere.
It does seem to. How many people will that feed, that pasta, would you say?
That's for 3 people.
Yep.
Normally I would, the minimum I would make it for is for 2. So 200 grams and then 45%, so 90 mils of water. But it also keeps in the fridge. So you could make it the day before and then pop it into the fridge for 2 days. But you'll be amazed at how much this transforms and how soft it is after. It has a different texture to egg dough. It's much more springy, but I actually prefer it. Okay, so
I'm already impressed. I'm already.
It's very easy. Don't be too impressed.
I think that I am. Who knew? A little flour and water does more than make clag.
So while we let the dough rest, I'm going to just quickly prep the sauce. And when I say prep, it's more chop and get everything together. So with a pasta board, you're not allowed to do anything else on it except make pasta.
Because you don't want any sort of grooves in it at all, do you?
Yeah, and you don't want a sort of a different, a scent that imparts the dough or any oil. So I get really cranky if people come and they put their wine glass on the board or something. So hence why I've got another board. Now all you do, I've got this amazing, again, from Galuzzo's New Season Australian garlic. And I've just cut the clove and I'm just going to rub it around the bowl, and that just really imparts a subtle garlic flavour for the tomatoes then to sit in. Now, I do say to rest the tomatoes in the bowl for 30 to 60 minutes. You could do it in the morning or while you're cooking the pasta. It just allows them to soften and release their juices, which then coats all the pasta. But it's about, it's a 2-minute job. So once I've done that, I can just throw the garlic in the bowl, and then I'm just going to quickly chop these beautiful.
So when you talk about leaving the tomatoes to rest within the bowl that's been smeared with those delicious garlic juices,
yeah.
you've chopped them and then you leave them. You chop the tomatoes first.
When you salt tomatoes, obviously salt draws out moisture and that water content. So it just makes, and you'll see when we go to cook the pasta that there'll be already a sauce would have been created by us not even cooking. And this is a dish that they make a lot in the south of Italy, and when the ingredients are so delicious, I mean, it just kind of blows your mind that you've done no cooking and you create something that's so flavoursome.
It's really quite a remarkable recipe. When you were in Italy, Lizzie, you were studying. You went to the pasta school, but you did a master's. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I did a master's in food culture and communication, and it was an incredible year. And we studied, everything from beer to chocolate making to, food law to science, wine tasting. Yeah, it was an incredible degree, but more so it was an incredible experience. And I really embraced the Italian life, aperitivo and I drove around Italy a lot, and it was incredible. It was an incredible experience.
I can see that you're picking out the beautiful leaves from the basil. I have heard before that you shouldn't cut basil, that you should only tear it.
Yeah, because it bruises. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I leave them whole because I just think they look beautiful with the hot pasta. But, I don't think you can kind of mush them a little bit. But, yeah, you don't want them to be bruised. So I've got about, a quarter of a bunch of basil. But really, I say in the lead to my recipes, I measure out the dough, but everything else, I really, it is cooking with intuition. It's not like baking where you have to be exact on things. Pasta sauces are relaxed in their very nature. And it's, all my recipes are the sort of things that you can do with friends, or, you're a little tipsy or anything like that. So I
like that there wasn't such an emphasis on meat in your recipes.
Yeah. I think that's that's how people cook these days, and it's certainly how we eat in our household. And when we do eat meat, it's a celebration of really great meat. But there's so many delicious vegetarian recipes. Generously seasoned with salt. I always use Olsen salt because it's Australian and family made. And then olive oil. And then we're just going, and a generous glug.
That's a beautiful colour, olive oil.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's actually Australian from Orange in my own decanter. So that's it. And we're just going to kind of give everything a bit of a toss and leave it to do its thing while we roll out the dough. So I'll just put this over to the side.
I don't know anyone, but my stomach is actually rumbling now, Lizzie. Like I'm actually very keen to eat this delicious meal.
I hope so. Okay, so I've always wanted to say and do this. This is one I prepared earlier.
So there is some people that are saying to me that their dough is broken and it's not gelling together. Would there be a reason for that?
Okay, so just keep going, keep bringing it together, really start to squeeze it. And all you're doing is that the moisture just needs to come out a little bit more. Now, if you feel that it is too dry, and sometimes that could just be the sort of flour you're using, just mist the dough, wet your hands ever so slightly, and just to help bring it together. And just keep going. You'll notice when the dough rests how much smoother it is because the moisture has really embrace the flour.
So how long have you had that pasta resting for?
I literally made this before.
Like an hour ago?
Yeah, nothing. So it's really, the difference between the doughs, this one's super soft.
Fantastic.
So keep going, keep squeezing it together and keep kneading. And it is a little bit of a workout, but it will come together.
And it'll make your stomach muscles very strong.
Yes. Okay, so all we're going to do is once you've got in your dough, I'm going to cut off a little chunk. And when you're not using the dough, just wrap it up.
And what I'll do, Lizzie, if that's all right, is I'll get you to just bring your camera down so that we can see that beautiful action right there. Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Okay, so we've got this sort of sausage shape, and sorry, there's a bit of my dog hair on here.
Feel no shame, my friend, feel no shame.
So we're going to roll it out into a longer sausage, and actually semolina dough, a lot of shapes start from here, and the best way to roll is to start from the middle with your fingers and your palms, and kind of roll out, and you're stretching the dough. Now, if you're finding your dough is contracting in, it just means you might have over kneaded it, or you've kneaded it and it just needs a little longer rest. So just wrap it up and give it another 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I love making this dough in the morning, and then because then I find later in the day it's super soft and silky, and it's it doesn't give you any trouble. So I'm just going to cut it and just keep this bit on the side wrapped up, just so it doesn't become too much to handle. And I'm just going to roll it out. Now, you don't want to press down on the dough. You're literally rolling it between the board. And
so this is like going back to kindergarten, isn't it, in some ways? We're about to make a coil pot.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was saying about this dough. It really embraces that irregularity. So don't worry, like some of mine's a little bit chunkier here. We're not on the pursuit of perfect dough. You just roll it out. We're going to about 1/2 centimetre.
And is this the type of meal that you would cook for your girlfriends on a Tuesday night?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something I cook a lot for lunch because, depending on how busy my day is, I might not roll the dough out. But it's it's really easy to throw together, and that's the point.
Lizzie, have you heard about the sort of secret language to the sauces and the pasta shapes that have different meanings?
Yes.
Have you heard about this before?
I have, and there's actually in the book I talk about some of the stories and myths behind the shapes, and everyone has a story. And the other thing to note is they're called different things all over Italy, depending what family it is. So particularly things like cavatelli can be called a different things. So if you kept going and you rolled it to about 3 mils, you'd actually make a peachy, which is just kind of these fat homemade noodles. So you could do that, and that would be really nice with this sauce. But we're making buzzati. So I'm going to cut it, if you can see, to about 10 to 12 centimetres and just use it as a guide, each noodle. The other thing I should say is even though I lived in Italy, I have terrible pronunciation. I can't roll any R's. But Italians, unlike sort of the French, they're very forgiving, and they really want to give it a go.
They're just happy that you're there.
Pardon my pronunciation on some of these shapes. Okay, so can you see?
We can.
Okay, so I've got a piece of dough rolled out, and I'm going to put it on a 45-degree angle. Then I'm going to get my wooden skewer. And I'm going, I've broken one, so I'm going to use another one. And I'm going to put it 1 centimetre down on the dough. And I'm going to press lightly, and then using my finger, I'm just going to curl it round. And then we're going to roll the skewer down towards me. Now, I always say the first pasta shape is like the first pancake, and it takes a while to get into the swing of things. And then once you do that, you roll it and then roll it up, and you'll see it's created this really beautiful shape that's kind of like a hollowed out curly noodle. If I hold it up, you'll see what I mean. It again can be called different things depending on where you are in Italy. So we'll do it again. Skewer up, curl it over. And
it's actually beautiful.
Using your hands, roll it down towards you.
And quite meditative. I can see that even though you're on display at the moment, you're getting into the zone.
Yeah. So I'm going quite slowly to do it. I normally get on a bit of a roll. and roll down, bring it down, curl it round, and then roll it up and down a few times just to stretch the noodle and hollow it out. So it's part of the fusilli family, which is basically the coiled telephone cord.
It's it's gorgeous.
That's all it is. So, practice makes perfect, and you can keep going, but roll it down.
And how long does something like this take to cook in the pot?
Oh, 3 minutes. I mean, really quick. Yeah, 4 minutes. It does take a little bit longer than, say, an egg pasta, because especially if you've rolled it out thin, this has obviously more, it's thicker, and it's got much more of a springy texture.
And how would we know that it's cooked? What's the best sort of texture?
I like just to take it out and have a nibble.
Yep.
But for me, it's got a bit of resistance and a bite, and that's al dente essentially. So that's all it is. It's really, really simple. And once you get the hang of it, the other thing is to put pressure on the skewer, not the pasta. So curl it down and then just roll it towards you. Sometimes I make it, there's another pasta shape, a type of macaroni that is sort of, my pasta teacher said to me, oh, that's a mix of that and a mix of that. But to me, it doesn't matter. And this is just such a delicious shape because all the sauce falls in the inside of it. So it's really nice to make and eat.
Fantastic. So you've made the pasta, you've created these beautiful shapes. Then what happens next?
Okay, so just quickly before I take you through it, because it's all going to be about 5 minutes, I thought I would show you something else you can quickly make with this shape. And instead of rolling it out to 0.5 centimetre, we've gone to 1 centimetre. And I'm going to cut these little chunks and make cavatelli. So there's some. Now, most of you probably know what that is, and that's a gnocchi board. And you can just flour it. You've got the ridges.
These are very easy to find. I've got one here. They're very easy to purchase. Yeah. You can get it online anywhere at all. It's not a complicated tool at all.
And so all you do, you can roll it down and curl it around your thumb, and you get this little carved out pasta shape.
And I guess the joy of that is that it holds the sauce.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's from the south as well, and all it goes in the ridges. But you don't need one of these. You can also sieve, if you've got it. Just flour everything, and I actually should have floured my wooden skewer before. Sorry, everyone. If you put it on the sieve and you just put your thumb down, add a bit of pressure, and let it curl over, you'll see it's also created, this lovely little.
Oh, it's beautiful
shape. So you can do that with a microplane as well. So that's it. Created a grater.
You are the most fantastic no-fuss chef that I have come around. Do you think that's because you were always a home cook before you went into training?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of have to use what's around, and, you're not, I think if you take the pressure off and you're not, things don't need to be perfect, and, then you just want to cook what feels good, and you don't want to stress yourself out, and cooking shouldn't be like that.
No, it's about good times. So if you were cooking a sort of a romantic meal for your partner because your parents had your child, all was calm and quiet in your house, what type of pasta would you cook for the most romantic of evenings?
Ooh, I would probably a tagliatelle, long pasta. I mean, Lady and the Tramp, right? And then another cavatelli, which you could do, is macaroni artescita. Again, apologise for my pronunciation. Which you roll it around your fingers, and essentially you just get a bit of dough, pop your fingers in, and press down and just roll it towards you, and you create these lovely little fingerprints of the dough that catches the sauce. And again, if you get friends to do it, it all makes, it's all shaped on everyone's fingerprints, so it's quite fun.
Oh, it's so nice. So what sort of pasta dish would you make if it was Sunday night and you were in your sort of stretchy pants, as we have all been down here in Melbourne,
Yes.
and you wanted to watch reruns of Fargo or something like that? You're in your comfy socks and you want a bowl of pasta that you can eat on the couch without dribbling all over your top. What would you cook?
I would say I have this recipe in the book, and it's called Bad Day Chicken, and it's made from chicken stock, pasta, and Parmigiano Reggiano, and it's made with fregola, but you could make it with lots of small pastas, and you cook it in with the chicken stock and add cheese, and it's incredibly comforting, and it's bowl food.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Really good.
I am delighted to let you know that in this gorgeous book, Saturday Night Pasta, all of the different shapes that Lizzie has been talking about are included in here. And all of these wonderful sauce dishes are also included. The book is divided into two sections in a way. It's the pasta shapes and making of the pasta, and it's also the sauces at the back. But throughout this book are stories of Lizzie's own life and experiences. And I think that this is the key to this beautiful book, because it does make it feel like, just as we are now, that we're literally in the kitchen with Lizzie, sipping on some beautiful crisp white wine, having a little gas bag about her day. Any second now, I'm sure she's going to show us pictures of her baby. It's that type of experience.
Yeah, exactly. So this is just the bulzati I made earlier, again, like literally 10 minutes before our call. And yeah, you'll see they're lovely and curled. So all I'm going to do is salted the water.
And you've salted it as if it was the ocean, or?
Yeah, salty as the sea.
Yeah.
And I'll throw it in there. And then I'm going to get my tomatoes and put my board back. I've put it somewhere so I don't spill on my, spill on my pasta board. Put that back, and the idea, all we're going to do is once it's cooked, throw the pasta in the sauce with some chunks of goat's cheese, toss everything around to emulsify the sauce, and you create this really lovely creamy sauce. So on that, we're going to just add about a tablespoon of goat's curd and chuck that in. And then I don't really drain much of my pasta. I prefer to use one of these kind of spiders to scoop the pasta directly into the sauce.
And you can get them at any sort of Asian supermarket, or.
But you could drain the pasta as well and just save a bit of cooking pasta water. And that's, I think, my big thing is...
It's the top tip, isn't it?
Yeah, cooking water really can transform a dish. So we're going to throw it in. I might actually put that pasta in a bigger bowl just so I don't spill it everywhere.
Lizzie, we're nearly out of time, but I wanted to give you a couple, just while we're waiting for the pasta to cook, give you some rapid fire questions. Just
sure.
The answers need to be just one word.
Okay.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Red wine or white wine?
Red wine.
Morning or night?
Morning. So we're just literally pouring the pasta in on top of the tomatoes, and I'm just going to use a ladle to add a bit of sauce just to help emulsify.
So how much of that pasta water are you using? Sort of just
a small half a ladle.
Mm-hmm.
And I can always add more. And then I'm just tossing everything together, and I might top down.
What is the smell like? It must be extraordinary.
It's amazing. The basil is so heady, and it's just getting, it's incredible. And so you'll see the goat's cheese is melting, and it's just coating each pasta strand, and it all goes in between, and the tomatoes. So you're just really bringing it all together. Now, one thing to think about is fresh pasta absorbs water more than dried pasta, so just be a little bit more liberal with the pasta water if you're using dried pasta. And then that's it. So I'm going to add a bit of Parmigiano Reggiano because I can't have any pasta without it.
And that would be a beautiful aged piece of cheese there.
It is.
I mean, it is true, isn't it, that there's different qualities of parmesan cheese, and one should always be aware.
Yes, exactly. It's not the same. It's not all is not equal. Like the parmesan in the shops, supermarkets is not the same as a really good Reggiano. So that's it. And then I add a bit of chili flakes, which is optional. And then pepper and salt. And that's it. So look, I don't know if you can see, but it's very
I'm drooling, Lizzie. I'm drooling. It's ridiculous.
And very fresh. So it's the perfect summertime pasta to have with a glass of wine.
Do you know, here in Melbourne, that is exactly the sort of dish that we all need right now. It has been such a fraught year, but to come to the end of it and to have a glass of wine with you and this beautiful pasta dish, Lizzie, is such a treat. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thank you for having me and for everyone for joining. And I hope you've enjoyed the dish and you enjoyed the book.
I think that everybody will. To you, on behalf of Readings, thank you so much. And of course, thank you to Plum Publishing for bringing this all together for us. We are delighted to have had you a part of the program. There's so many messages coming through now, Lizzie, where everyone's telling me how much they absolutely adore you and how much they adored this class. So really, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we look forward to seeing you again another time very, very soon. I'm sending you enormous kisses.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for cooking along.
Saturday night is never going to be the same again. Goodbye, my friend.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.